Welcome to another edition of the Metal Voice. Hey, Jim, here's a first on the Metal Voice. We've got a special guest reviewer.
Yes.
Giles Lavery, lead singer of Dragonsclaw.
The Claw.
How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to be here on the Metal Voice. Alan, the metal guy, and Jimmy, the other metal guy.
Tis moi.
Yeah.
Today we're reviewing Fates Warning's new album, Darkness in a Different Light.
Darkness in a Different Light.
Going Fates Warning, one of the original prog metal bands from the 80s, got their first 3 albums, Knights of Brocken, Spectre Within, and the third one escapes me all the time. Here.
Parallel.
No.
That was
Awaken the Guardian.
Yes, Awaken the Guardian.
That's
exactly.
Yes.
That's why we need Giles on the show.
That's right, because I don't remember anything.
And then honestly, John Arch left, and like a lot of bands around that time, lead singers are departing, left, right, and center, kind of lost track of them, and got back into them with the Arch Mateus Sympathetic Resonance. I thought that album was unbelievable.
What are we talking about? Fates Warning, or are we talking about
Fates Warning, and now we're going with Darkness in a Different Light. I mean, I think it's a very strong album.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back, a couple of them were, Disconnected and A Pleasant Shade of Grey. Those are challenging listens, I find. This takes you a little bit more back to not as poppy as the Parallels album, but more like Inside Out, I would say, would be an equivalent. So if you like that album, you're going to love this one. Let's get into, what was
Charles, what do you think? What do you think overall on this album?
I'm kind of a little bit different. I come in at a wee bit of a different point with Fates Warning. My favorite era is kind of that Perfect Symmetry, Parallels, Inside Out, Pleasant Shade of Grey. That kind of, it's proggy, but it was real melodic and accessible.
Right.
Like my first Fates record was Perfect Symmetry. So I kind of, like I said, it came in at a sort of a different point. So perhaps my first impressions, gave me a wee bit of a different perspective on the band, maybe, as is often the case. But if I had to really nail it down and pick like a favorite Fates Warning album, it would probably be Parallels, followed closely by Inside Out.
I mean, you've seen them live in concert?
I did. I saw them
in Australia?
3 nights ago. I saw them. It was great. I mean, the set list was they didn't do any John Arch stuff at all.
Okay.
But it encompassed everything from and nothing from No Exit either, which was Ray's first album with the band. But it encompassed a selection of everything from Perfect Symmetry right through to the new record. They did a fair few off Disconnected, which surprised me.
Yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my opinion. I gotta tell you, I'm not even a Fates Warning fan. I've never been, or maybe I should say I've never really been a Fates Warning fan. But I put this album on, and I like it. I thought it was proggy. It's a little harder edge, and sometimes very dynamic overall. But as someone who hasn't really been following the group all these years, I found it as a pleasant surprise. Nice 8 out of 10, I would say. All the songs, like I said, there's that acoustic number, right?
Falling,
1,000 Fires and very Firefly, amazing songs, and I really enjoyed that track as well.
Those are the 4 tracks I found the strongest as well, Jim.
But maybe it takes a lot of time, and I know Giles was telling us before we started, proggy albums, you really need to absorb them. And you really need to take the time to listen to them, and you can't just do a review on them the second they come out. And maybe a year from now we'll reconvene at the same time, the same place, on the same date, and we'll talk about the album again.
Yeah, I mean, my take on the new record is, and like you were saying, Jimmy, it will take a little bit of time. I mean, I've had it for about a week, so I haven't lived with it for a real long time. There's a lot of groove on this, which I'm not sure how well that will sit with some of the prog purists. You get those guys that want, the prog rock or prog metal to be strictly about, a ton of time changes and songs that are, 12 minutes long, which is what Fates Warning have, at times been known for in the past. Tracks like Still Remains and things like that. This had a lot of groove to it, I thought. And I even, I noticed a wee bit of the Tool influence in there and stuff like that. It kind of surprised me. After the last one, I mean, it's been 10 years since the last Fates Warning, FWX came out. I really didn't know what to expect. I saw the press for it, but they had the old logo back.
Yeah.
You know, there was, you know, it just kind of looked like first impressions were that it was going to be perhaps leaning back a little bit to, you know, that more commercial period that I was talking about earlier. But this, to me, this is kind of different again. It's got more groove. There's some interesting tracks like Lighthouse,
yes,
things like that.
And that's the beauty of Fate's Warning, right? There's not all their albums are the same. They kind of reinvent themselves on every album, and like you said, they're doing it again here. So, and that's what I wanted to ask you, Giles. I mean, from one vocalist to another. I mean, John Arch, a lot of people found him a little challenging to listen to, but Ray Alder, I think his vocals on this album are particularly strong compared to some of the other earlier releases.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Ray is. You know, I'd heard some, you know, just through the grapevine, some talk that he'd maybe lost a little bit of range, you know, live and whatever. But I got to say, where I was standing and I was, you know, right at the front there watching them live, Ray was fantastic live as well as on this new record. He sounded really strong and really good. There was absolutely no problem there as far as my ears can tell. And I'm fairly critical of vocalists, you know. You can kind of tell when a guy hasn't looked after his voice or he smoked a little bit too much. But no, Ray sounded really, really good.
Diamond Dave.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had Don Dokken. one of my favorite vocalists growing up. Like, I just, you know, you hear a lot of stories like, you know, Don's having some trouble these days, you know, and he's even admitted it himself. It happens to vocalists as they get older. But, you know, back to Ray. Ray sounded fantastic live, and he sounds great on this new record too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're touring the U.S. throughout November, December. They're over in Europe, I think, right now, right, Giles?
They were, yeah, they are. They just doing a run of German dates, and they just played at Two Rock, which is about a 15-minute drive from me, so it was great just to swing by and catch them live, you know.
You're basically our reporter
I'm
in Germany.
here in Germany right now.
Giles, you're basically...
Here's our correspondent from
Germany, Giles.
Germany, yeah.
And Frank Aresti's not touring with them. He performed on the album. He goes back to the very first Fate's Warning album. He's been with them. Took a little break, but is back in the group. He's not touring with them. What was the crowd like? What was the demographic of the crowd there?
It was a club, but it was a full club, you know, and they had a little balcony up there. It was nice and full. You know, it wasn't, you know, it's in a town of Essen, the city of Essen.
Great.
Sorry, and yeah, it was a good crowd. The vibe was great. They were really enthusiastic to see Fate's Warning, and apparently, from what I've been told, Fate's Warning really like playing there. Like they're always, it's a major stop for them on every time they play Germany. In fact, the photos from the inside of the booklet of Darkness in a Different Light are photographed in the club that they played, and also just outside. There's like you'll see in the booklet, if you look at it, there's these weird kind of black arch things, and that's right outside the club. So obviously that place is dear to them because the photos from the booklet are there, and they say we're back in our second home to rock. So
cool. I'm sure they're a lot more popular in Europe than they are in North America. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, what's the vibe in North America for bands like Fate's Warning right now?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think they've been away for 10 years, and I think that hurt them. Right? Like any band, if you're away for 10 years, it just doesn't help your situation. But there is a cult following for them, and I think with this album, they'll gain back a lot of their old fans and a lot of new fans.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna see them in New York, Poughkeepsie, New York, in mid-November.
All right,
and that's where they're not far from Connecticut, where they were formed and raised. So hopefully their core group of fans have a good turnout at that show. So.
All right.
That's cool. I believe they toured a few years ago doing the Parallels album, like the whole thing from start to finish.
Oh, okay.
I read that. I think I could be wrong, but they did like a reissue of that. So. Well, but it might have been a couple of years since they've been through the North America.
So there you go. Fate's Warning, Darkness in a Different Light. Our guest today, Dragonsclaw's vocalist, Giles Lavery. He has a new album out. Lavery, sorry. Judgment Day is your news. Just to give him a little plug there. Judgment Day. There it is.
There we go.
And I have it actually right in front of us. Judgment Day.
You got it?
Yeah. Dragonsclaw's new album, Judgment Day. Go out there, pay for it, buy it any way you can. Make sure you get it. It's a great album.
Fate's Warning, Darkness in a Different Light. You can pick that up too. Go support bands.
Thanks, Giles.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.